Okay, hello there. I'm Dennis, and in this video, I need a Zen moment, and I choose to make that Zen moment happen in Arch Linux. If you're not familiar with Arch Linux, this is their homepage, archlinux.org. If you'll come here, you'll find all kind of documentation, including the wiki, the installation guide right here, the downloads. If you click on the download, it'll take you to this page, and if you have a torrent handler like Qbit torrent, what's the other one? Anyway, if you have a torrent handler, you can download the torrent link here, and it tells you the version. This is 6.1.2021. And I know we're right in the middle of the month, and it's almost over and everything, but they did come up with some new stuff. They come up with the installation, what did they call it? The installer, the guided installer. And so they've done some other changes here recently, including the Pac-Man. They updated Pac-Man. I thought, okay, I'm going to install Arch Linux. Go to their webpage, their homepage, click on the installation guide. It'll bring you to their installation guide. And you can start right here at the top, mosey on down, and go all the way through it. Starting from the very first thing you should do is verify your download. Gives you the instructions. It gives you the instructions right here. You just type that into the terminal, and that checks it, verifies it. You can, if you're using Arch, here's another command that you can use to verify that same download. They're telling you how to put it on a flash drive, or even a CD or DVD. In this case, it'll fit on a CD, I think. I believe there's, 750 megs on a CD. Sounds extremely small nowadays. And then probably the most important part is to set your keyboard if you're using, even if you're not in another country from where I'm at, you still could have a different keyboard. And you would want to make sure it's listed, and you would want to make sure that it's in this operating system. And you'll have to redo that toward the end of the install to make it permanent or have persistence. All right, so that's how you do that. You'd go to the key maps where they're at and pick out whichever one you're using and give the command load keys, and then whatever that, in this case, they're using DE-Latin1 as the keyboard example. Then you can set your fonts if you choose to. And they're in user share KBD console fonts. And you can look in there. It's a big, long list. If you have a favorite font, you wouldn't be there otherwise. Pick it out and change it. Set font, and then whatever that font is. All right. Now, if you're not sure if you're in a BIOS or legacy or UEFI, and you're not sure, you can run this command right here, ls space /sys/firmware/EFI/FEVARS. If you don't get any arguments, you are on a legacy BIOS. If you get a list of a whole bunch of files, then you're definitely in UEFI mode or EFI. Then you want to check, make sure you're online. So if you wanted to just ping it right here, or you could type in IP link, and that'll give you some other information about what the address is. Wireless and WWAN, make sure the card is not blocked with RF kill. Connect to the network. That's using this IP link. And my preferred method is to just ping Arch Linux or Pacman-SYY, either one. That'll sync the databases. This just makes sure you're online. But if you sync the databases, then you won't have to do that later. All right, and then the first thing in the first step is the time date set NTP true. And then from there, we'll go from there. Let me go over to the other side here. And I've got it set up in my virtual box. Pull this over to the middle. I'll give it 8 gigabytes of RAM, 2 cores of my processor, I've enabled the EFI, turned the video memory all the way up, and I allocated a 62.5 virtual hard drive. But under network, I used a bridged adapter. Let me go to settings here and I'll show you that more clearly here. And your options attached to the default is NAT. But if you'll just move it to bridged adapter, and you can see the name is WLAN, and you do have another option, and that's the difference probably between Wi-Fi and landline. And this computer happens to have both, even though I'm only connected to the Wi-Fi. So anyway, that's how you prepare to SSH into this system right here. So let me click start. Minimize that. Go ahead and get enter over here. And I'm going to control C to get me in a scaled mode. And let's see if we can make this look bigger but not warped. So this is my host machine that you're looking at, and this, what is booting up right now, is going to be the remote machine, or the machine that's in another location. And we're going to be using Sshd. So we are loaded up. First thing I'm going to do is just make sure that I am online. Definitely online. So to set up SSH, I need two things in the remote machine. We need two things. We need a IP address, and we need a password for a root account. So the first thing we're going to do is say password root. Hit enter and give it a password. Retype the password to confirm and hit enter. I'm going to control L to clear this screen, and I'm going to go IP space A. Now we've got, capturing my mouse, we have right here, we have 192.168.0.203. Get back in position there. Now let me go to my host machine, bring up a terminal, put it right here, and let's sign in as root, so we don't have to keep using, I gave it my password. And control L. So first thing I'm going to do is sign in as root or super user. It's going to ask me for my password and give it to me. I needed to know two things about the remote machine: the password and the IP address. First thing I need to do though is make sure system CTL status. Spell that right? Nope. Status SSHD. And it's, well, you can see by this that we do have it, but it is marked as inactive. Q will get me out of that. I'm going to up arrow that command back, and I'm going to change it to enable. And you could just say start, and it doesn't enable it, but I'm going to enable it. And I'm going to say hyphen now to make it work right now. All right, now I'm going to up arrow that status back, and we should see it's active and running, highlighted in green right there. Q will get me out of that. I'll control L to clear this little screen. Now it's time to SSH the root at, and no spaces here, and it's 192.168 and 2.168.0.203. All goes well. There we go. I'm going to type in the word yes and give it the password from the remote machine, not my host machine. And as you can see, we are online right there. Let's see. If I'm truly SSH'd into that machine, back here I'm going to control L, then control Shift V. Then this should show me that address, 192.168.0.203, and it even specifies SSH. So we're definitely into this machine right here. me go find my install guide. This is not going to work. Actually, wonder. Bear with me here. I'm going to grab my notes, pull them over to that screen. I'm going to pull my terminal over. We're going to leave the fresh install of Arch Linux in the first workspace there. And that way I can get these a little bigger. So we've SSH'd into that machine, and now we're ready. You hear people talking about just a copy and paste install. Well, unless you know how to SSH into the remote machine, or you even have the ability to SSH into that remote machine, then there's no copy and paste. And it took me a while to learn that, and I'm really glad to share it with you. We're not in a Wi-Fi. If you are, you're going to have to set up Wi-Fi running IWCTL, and I did do a guide for that. To make the font larger, it talked about set font. This is the biggest one that I saw in there. You can search around, see if you find one even better. Usually the font size is fine as default for me. I'm hoping I rewatch some of these on TV or on YouTube TV, and I can read them. So if there is a problem, let me know. We have not made sure that we're online. So let me just, instead of copying and pasting, go Pacman -SYY. And we're definitely online. So I'm going to Control L. And first thing I'm going to do is go to pacman.conf. Now this is not in my guide. This is just something, this is one of the new things that they've done, and I want to show it out right away. Okay, so color has always been there. And you've always, and you've always had to add this for the Pacman. So that's not new. No progress bar. If you don't like the progress bar running across the screen, this is where you would take it out. Parallel downloads. It's limited to 5. What I like to do, or what I've been doing, is changing that to 3 and uncommenting it so that in theory it's supposed to work. And another thing I like to do while we're in the pacman.conf is I like to include basically 32-bit libraries. So I'm good in here, and I'm going to say Control O, Enter, Control X, and there we go. So now if I run that Pacman -SYY, you'll see that it should be running more than one at a time, and it did, and it also included the 32-bit stuff. Okay, so the first thing we're going to have to do is set our time. I'm going to copy and paste that right into this terminal and hit Enter. All right. Now, it doesn't matter if you're in, it doesn't matter what mode you're in right here. You need to run lsblk and find out what your drive is listed as. As you'll see here, it's SDA1 or SDA, and it has 62.5 gigabytes. That's the command that I want to use right here where it says SDA. If it said SVM2, whatever it says, that's what you make sure you get right there. This -Z is going to quote Mr. Esnick, it's going to zap the whatever if there is a partition label already. So I'm going to hit Enter. We're going to use GPT since we are in Uefi mode. Hit Enter. Now this is our free space. You'll notice it up near the top on the right. It says 62.5 gigabytes. Down at the bottom, new is highlighted. So I'm going to hit Enter. And we're going to give this a EFI boot partition of 512 megabytes. And you can go lower, but I really don't see the need. If anything, I would go higher. Because you don't know. All right, so we're going to label that as EFI, and you can see it's labeled EFI system. We'll arrow down to the new space, and now I'm going to give it some swap. And I allocated 12 gigabytes for swap. That is a little much. Personally, I've never even seen my computers use swap, and when I did, it was in the kilobytes, not megabytes. So, and I do all my video editing, so I'm not sure what kind of loads. I mean, if you was doing 2 or 3 of those things at one time, yeah, you might get into trouble. But as a rule, Ubuntu recommends 1.5 times your available RAM. So that's what I allocated as an example, not what I would do. Laptops, that's a different story as well. So I'm gonna arrow down to the free space, hit enter, and I'm going to divide this into, let's say, 27 gigs for our home partition or our root partition, and arrow down to the new stuff. I'm going to accept that, and we're good. So we have our partition laid out. We're going to write it out. We're going to have to type in the word yes and hit enter, and we're through with partitioning our disk. So I'm going to arrow over to quit and hit enter. It synced the disk. It recognized what partitions we had set. We'll clear the screen and run lsblk, and now you should see SDA is divided into 1, 2, 3, 4 sections here. Okay, go back over to my guide. We're in Uefi mode. There's our partitions. Now, most people will mount this partition that was created for the EFI as soon as we get through with the formatting. I don't do that. Every time I've done that in a VirtualBox, it fails. I don't know what it is. When I get to the end and I do the Grub install with the long command line there, it'll say that directory doesn't exist. Then I go back and I look, and it is there. I mount it, and it still fails. So it's just easier for me to mount it just before I download and install Grub. All right, so we're going to make swap on SDA2, device SDA2, hit enter. Now I'm going to turn that swap on right here, so the system can go ahead and start utilizing it if it needed it. All right, now we're going to make a file system of an EX. Uh-oh, what did I just do? I went way down to the bottom somehow. All right, so we just made those. I'm about to make the file system on SDA3 of ext4. Then I'm going to up arrow that backspace the 3 off, replace it with a 4, and there's our home drive, home partition. All right, now we need to mount those. And here's where I say, if you look at any other guides, they're going to tell you to mount it right now. EFI1 I'm talking about, or SDA1. But I'm going to mount SDA3 to /mnt, hit enter. Then I'm going to make a directory. Of /mnt/home. Now I'm going to mount that directory to device SDA4. All right, I'm going to clear the screen, Control L, and then I'm going to run another lsblk, and you'll see we have a swap, a mount home, and SDA1 is not mounted, but it is there. If I was to run a df-th, I think it'll show up. Megabytes, 512. It didn't. I could have swore that shows up in here, but it doesn't. Maybe because it's not mounted. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. Okay, so I've already edited my pacman.conf file, and there's no reason to manipulate or edit the Pacman mirror list at this point. That seems to be working just fine. So we have all our partitions formatted and mounted. It's time to run pacstrap base/mnt, and we're going to just copy and paste all of these. Don't run away from me. So that's base devel, Linux LTS for the kernel, Linux firmware. Trying to look over my camera. Let's do that differently here. Reflector I'm going to bypass because it's already installed and it does carry over. Bash completion, man pages, that stuff's left out. Which I see now for their long term, they had to make room for the new stuff. And so you kind of get that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. While this is going, we'll talk about what I installed. One of the things I noticed, instead of the progress, download progress, where it would show over here the total download, now it's showing it right here by default. How awesome is that? That's one of the differences that I talked about probably the first time I completed my Arch install and understood about downloading and using pacman.conf. That's an awesome feature right there. And you can see now we're getting 3 consecutive downloads, and you see 3 different Pacmans. For me, my packstrap command, I go ahead and I get some stuff that I know I'm going to need so that there's no question whether it is there or not, because I know it is. So you only really have to get a couple of these base, and I think you could probably stop right there. The guide, the Arch Linux installation guide, doesn't show you all these, but you'll need them. So we got base, the base developments for any 32-bit stuff, Linux LTS, that is the kernel. We're going to get Linux firmware so that it recognizes things like video cards, processors, RAM, CD, DVD, ROM drives, anything that you may have hooked up to the machine. Got Nano for a text editor, although I have a preference for EE, the easy editor. Sorry, Arch. Some things just should carry over though. So we got Nano, and then we've got Network Manager and the Network Manager applet. Those are self-explanatory. That's going to be the little thing down here that tells us we're online. USB utils, GVFS, GV file system, NTFS-3G. All of those are for reading, as you could guess, USB drives. Pacman Contrib, that contains a few little programs that you will need. Like for cleaning your cache. If you try to clean your cache and you haven't downloaded this, you'll get an error. I did a video about that as well. Git, wget, Yazoo, DOSFS tools, and M tools. The DOSFS and M tools are because we're on an EFI system, and you'll need those to look at and whatever you want to do with partitioning. SNAIL, that's a mail. That comes in, helps something to do with mail. MDADM, WPA supplicant wireless tools, NetCTL, and init utils, and those are all for wireless stuff and not just wireless, any network connection. ManDB and man pages, numlock. Hey, looks like we're getting pretty close over there already. Next thing we're going to do is generate a file system table. And these are the arguments or comments that I use. Flags, possibly might call them flags. The capital U and the hyphen lowercase p. The capital U is for universally unique identifier, I think. And the P is for pseudo mounts. Include the pseudo file system mounts. That was fast. That was real fast, as a matter of fact. I don't know if it's ever worked that fast. Oh, get back over here. I'm going to Control L to clear the screen. Control Shift V to paste in that genfs tab command. Hit enter, and I'm going to up arrow that back. Arrow back behind the MNT, or forward of it, behind it. And we're going to say CAT space, hit enter. And you can clearly see there's the root drive, the home drive, and our SDA2 is not mounted. That's they swap. And it didn't list one for the EFI partition. And I think right here is where it would mess up for me. I wouldn't swear to it, but I just always had the idea that this is where that messed up, so that when I tried to install Grub at the end there, it would fail. All right, we're ready to arch a root. And what this does is it puts us into our hard drive. Right now, up until this very moment, we've been on the ISO image, or the Arch ISO. Now, when we issue this command, we will be on the hard drive. Anything we do at this point will affect that hard drive. I'm going to do something about the local time here. We're going to remove any remnants that it might possibly have. All right, then I'm going to set the time zone, create a symlink. And for me, it's ln hyphen space hyphen sf space /user/share/zone info America Chicago, both capitalized, space etc/local time. Now, you could, when you got to this slash right here, if you hit tab twice, it'll show you all the countries. Then when you decide what country, you type that in, then hit the / and then double tab once more time, and it'll show you all the time zones in that location. But however you get to this, it needs to go into Etsy local time, because right now there's nothing in there because we just erased it. So I'm going to hit enter. Okay. Next thing is the hardware clock. Copy. Paste. And hardware clock is now set. Now, we'll go back into our pacman.conf at this point. See if it, and I know it changed some stuff because it deleted whatever we were doing on that ISO. So again, I'm going to put in color. I'm always doing that. Oh, trying to create that space right there, and I'm going to type in capital I, capital LOVE, Candy, CANDY. And the progress bar, I like having a progress bar. I don't need a verbose package list. In fact, if you uncomment that back, it will give you an error. It'll work. The Pac-Man, whatever you're doing, will work. But it'll give you this warning right at the very beginning that it does not understand verbose package list. And again, you're probably going to want to leave this at 5. I always adjust it to 3 because I am on just a Wi-Fi, and I'm perfectly fine with what I'm getting. But it did actually make that download and install to the base while ago a lot faster. If I'm in Nano, I'm going to Control O to write it out, Enter to confirm, Control X to get out of here, and I'm going to Control L to clear the screen. Now, we will need to run Pac-Man again, sync the databases, because we just changed all that. See, it's getting 3, so it's working. So now it's time to edit our locale.gen file, to choose our language. Or if you live in English, or if you live in America, you can just uncomment these down here under examples. And I'm in Nano once again, Control O to write it out, Enter to confirm, Control X to get out of here. Now we're going to type in locale with a E -GEN and let the computer generate our locale. Now, I chose language, English, US, etc. Instead of typing all that out again, I usually just type it out once and echo this command, and it puts it in the locale.conf file. And that's important. See here, you would have already typed it out twice now, so always just do the simplest. Keep it simple. We're going to export that. Now it's time for a host name. Host name is the name that it'll be looked for if you look for it on a network. of any kind. This will be what it's named. We're going to name it Arch. Let's just name it June Arch _ Arch. All right, nano, I'm Control O, enter, Control X, Control L. All right, now we need to we need to edit our etsy.hosts plural file. And there's going to be some stuff going on in here. This is for your internet connection. Sometimes I forget what I named the machine, the host name. Let's see, it was June _ Arch. June _ Arch. I think it was a capital Arch. If it wasn't, shame on me, because it should have been. And that's all lined up. We'll Control O to get out of here. Enter to confirm. Control X to get out of here. Let's go back to our host name and just make sure I got that capital. I did. Control X will get me out since I didn't do anything. So now it's time to create a root password. Remember, this is different than, or this is the remote machine, not your host machine. This is the root or the remote machine. So you did give it a password a while ago, and you could leave it at that. Or if you want to change it, then you can type in passwd space root. Give it a password, change it if you'd like, but you're going to have to do it twice. There we go, it's updated. Now, this is part of the act. Let's see. Nano Etsy group. Now, you could go in here and just add yourself to these groups individually. And that's not a bad idea. And in that way, if there's something not in my list, you can correct it by revising it here. But I hadn't done anything, so I'm going to Control X to get out of there. The archway is to say user add space hyphen lowercase m space uppercase G and then the username. Whatever your username is goes there. All right, so we got the command user add space hyphen M space hyphen capital G disk sys log network floppy power scanner RF kill users video storage optical LP games audio input wheel ADM KVM space hyphen S for the shell space /bin/bash and then space and whatever your username is. Hit enter. Now if you want to verify that you're in those groups, type in groups and your name. All right. Now the password, the user needs a password, so we're going to say PASSWD and then your username, hit enter, and then you're going to type your password twice so that they confirm it. All right, so we put ourselves in groups, we've changed the password. Now we need to give Dennis or your user some privileges. We're going to do this. Editor equals nano space by sudo. Now we're editing our by sudo file in nano rather than using vi. And right under root, I'm going to say Dennis space capital ALL equals in parentheses capital ALL end parentheses space capital ALL, not ALL. Hit enter, create that space. Now we're in nano, so I can Control O to write it out, enter to confirm, Control X to get out of there. So now Dennis can say sudo pacman -SYY. Now you can edit that file any way you want to. You don't even have to use by sudo. I think it's Etsy sudoers. You can do that. The reason why I recommend using by sudo though is if there is a syntax error, it will not save that error. You'll have to close out not saving it because it will not write it to the sudoers file unless it's all correct. Okay. Next. Copy and paste. Systemctl, enable our network manager. There we go. And now I did use the Linux LTS kernel, so we're going to run a make init cpio command with the lowercase p. Hit enter. Okay, so now here I'm to the stage where if I had mounted my EFI drive to start with, this would normally typically fail. Never had it pass, as a matter of fact, or I never had a success, as a matter of fact. So I'm going to Control L to clear that screen. I'm going to make a directory of /boot /e capital EFI. Hit enter, and now I'm going to mount that device SDA1 to /boot capital EFI. I got all that right. Now if we go LSBLK, we should see that is mounted right here, boot EFI, and we can continue. So Control L to clear that screen. Okay, Uefi mode. We need Grub, and if you was dual booting, you're going to need OS Prober, or you might want US-Prober. I'm not dual booting. I'm not an advocate of dual booting, although in my Windows days, I had 95 and 98 and XP all on one drive, and then I had another drive that had XP and Windows 2000 Pro. No, I'm sorry, it had MME, Millennium, and then XP, and then 2000 Pro. Okay, so now we're going to download Grub and EFI Boot Manager. Hit enter. Confirm by saying yes. And right here, as soon as I would type in this command, I would fail if I hadn't mounted that, or if I had mounted that previous. So now we should get no errors. Next thing we're going to do is grub-make config or mkconfig --o for output to /boot/grub cfg. We want to see here no errors. So I like the new Pac-Man look. I mean, it works, and it works really good. That download a while ago was probably, if I had to guess, twice as fast as typical for me. Okay, that completed with no errors reported. Now we're going to config it. And I'm going to go ahead and reboot and go back to the other terminal, or I'm going to power off, go back to the VirtualBox, remove the ISO, and then restart. And then I'll be in what we just installed. So, first thing I'm going to do is we're going to unmount. No, we're not. We're going to copy that though. Go over here and hit Control D, or you can type in exit, either one. I like Control D. In fact, I'm going to do it. Control D. Then I'm going to Control Shift V to umount --R /MNT. Hit enter, wait for that to dismount everything. And now it's time to shut down now or power off. Remote connection was closed. Before I leave here, I'm going to say system CTL disable SSHD. Alright. Now if I up arrow that back and I say status, it should be say it's there, but not enabled, not active. It says it's active. Oh, I so that when I power off, I could do that now. In fact, why don't I do that now? All right, now if I bring back that status, it'll be there but not active. Excellent. All right, so I'm going to close this out, this terminal. There's my instruction. Go back over to here, bring up my virtual box, go to my settings, storage, left click on the ISO. Okay. This ISO, correct. Right click on it, remove it, say okay. Let's start it back up. And you'll see we're even still in the scale mode from which we left. And there's our grub. I'm going to get back out of scaled mode here. See, why don't I just stay in scaled mode? Okay, so I'm going to log in as my user. Give it my password. And I'm going to say Pacman -SYY sudo Pacman -SYY. Ask for a password. Synchronizing our databases. I'm going to up arrow that command back and put tag a U on the end of it. Do it again. Make sure there's no update. Nothing left to do. Control L, clear that screen. Let's go in, tab into our temporary folder. We're going to get clone. Not very big. See if I can make that any bigger for us. Might be bigger out of scale mode. The same. Huh. We're going to get clone. We're in temporary directory. We're going to get clone https://archlinux.org/yay.git. All right, we're cloning into that. Now we're going to change directories into yay. If you ls, you should see package build. So we're going to make pkg-si space pkgbuild. So build. Hit enter. And we're going to confirm it by typing yes, hit enter, or typing Y and hit enter. So what I can do, this is running. Scale it up. There we go. That's a little better. I could have set the font, but I should have done that to start with. Point is, we've installed Arch Linux, the base Linux, Arch Linux, and we're running it right now. And as my user, I was able to sign in and run an update using the sudo. And right now we're going to install yay. Yet another Yowert. A Arch Linux AUR helper. I didn't think to notice was it using more than one mirror. Alright, sorry. Hit the wrong button. Sign back in. Alright, so now we'll see if yay is working. Password. Enter. And it is using more than one. Pacman is using more than one repo. Alright, so we're done. We are done. Now we need to run sudo pacman -s xorg xfce4 xfce4-goodies. Actually, I'm going to leave it here. We're going to end the video. We now have the base install of Arch Linux. To do that is sudo nano etsy pacman.conf. Hit enter. And You see parallel downloads is at 3. And that's what it worked. If I left it at 5, you would have saw 5 of them working at one time. But it works just fine with 3. And on my internet connection, I don't see a lot of difference. The 3 seems to work really well for me. And like I said, that's it. We're in Nano. I didn't change anything, so I'm going to Control X to get out of there. Control L will clear that screen. POWER off. Power off. We'll turn the machine off. Next video, I'll install a desktop. XFCE4. You guys have a great day. Thanks. Bye.